my mother handed me a glass of wine at my own engagement party. She smiled sweetly, said it was a special bottle she'd saved for this moment. But the smell it was off metallic bitter wrong. So without a word, I reached across the table and quietly switched it with the one meant for my sister. She didn't notice, no one did. But by the end of the night, I realized the wine wasn't the only thing that had been poisoned. It was all of it. The air, the laughter, the way they looked at me like I was the stain on their white tablecloth family. They didn't hate me because I failed them. They hated me because I didn't fit their story. Because I married a black man they thought was a nobody. They called me trash. But they never once asked who he really was. And by the time they found out, it was already too late. Tell me, have you ever been judged for who you loved? Drop a comment below. I'm listening. Where are you watching from? And if you were me, would you have picked up the phone when they called again? Because I didn't, and I don't regret it. Not for a second. My name is Naomi Hartley. I'm 33 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've lived somewhere between invisible and inconvenient. Not because I lacked ambition, I graduated with honors, launched my first nonprofit grant accelerator at 27, own a modest but profitable art gallery in downtown Atlanta. But in my family, none of that mattered, because I didn't marry up. My younger sister Celeste was the golden one, a marketing influencer, all curated brunches and filtered proposals. When she got engaged to Sterling Dallard, the son of a tech mogul, my mother nearly wept with joy. She did it right, she said. She secured the family's future. Me, I married Malcolm, a man they described as quiet. The first time they met him, then cold, then unremarkable, and finally beneath you. They never said it was because he was black. They didn't have to. My parents didn't scream or slam doors. Their cruelty was quieter than that, sharper. The kind that smiled through teeth at dinner parties, then sat me at the kids' table. The kind that edited me out of family photos, then said it was just a better angle. At first I made excuses. They just don't know him yet. They'll come around, but as years passed, it became clear they knew exactly who he was. Or rather, who they assumed he was. Because Malcolm wasn't a janitor. He owned the company, 5 contracts across the state, over 60 employees, and a silent partnership in a commercial real estate group, managing a portfolio most bankers would kill to get near. But we never told them. We let them believe what they wanted to believe. Why? Because I needed to know, would they love me if there was nothing to gain? Malcolm never pushed back. Not once. He stayed kind, measured. When my mother ignored him at Thanksgiving, he still held her coat. When my father scoffed at our one-bedroom starter home, Malcolm just smiled and offered him tea. And still I waited. Waited for one birthday call that never came. Waited for them to ask, how's your business? Naomi, how are you really doing? They never did. They only called when they needed something. Like when Celeste's Tesla got rear-ended, and nobody else could front the repair costs right now. They didn't know we'd already paid off our house, that I owned shares in 3 galleries, that the quiet man they brushed off at brunch once closed a 7-figure real estate deal in a room full of billionaires who called him sir. But none of that mattered to them. They saw his skin, they saw his job title. They saw my refusal to chase image over meaning, and they labeled me trash. So when my mother handed me that wine glass at the engagement party, I saw it for what it was. A performance, a warning, a test. And maybe for the first time I decided not to drink. The wine was never the point. It was what it represented, what they thought they could serve me. And I'd just swallow out of politeness. But I'd spent too many years doing exactly that. So that night after the party, Malcolm and I drove home in silence. Not angry silence, exhausted silence. Like both of us had spent years trying to build a bridge. And finally realized the other side was never coming to meet us. He made tea, jasmine my favorite. And while the kettle whistled, I sat in the living room, holding that wine-stained napkin with my initials embroidered in one corner, RH. Someone had dropped it near the trash bin outside the country club. Folded neatly, then discarded. I knew who it was. It didn't matter. What mattered was how deliberate it felt. Like a final period at the end of a sentence they'd been writing about me my whole life. Not good enough, not welcome, not one of us. I placed the napkin on the table and opened my laptop. I had a folder titled Estate Holdings. Johnston Ventures inside were spreadsheets, signed contracts, asset charts, proof of everything Malcolm and I had built together. He'd insisted on putting my name on all of it, but we never flaunted it. Because if you have to prove your worth to family, was it ever love to begin with? I hovered my finger over the publish button on a blog post I'd written months ago. It was called Married to a Billionaire, Treated Like a Burden. Every word laid out the truth. Our empire. His character. The nights he stayed up helping me through rejections. The silent dignity he carried while being disrespected. But I didn't publish. Because I wasn't looking for applause, I wanted acknowledgement. From them, and that was never going to come. 2 days later, I found the wedding invitation in the mailbox, thick cream envelope, rose gold foil. My name embossed alone, no mention of Malcolm. Inside it read, "Celebrate the union of Celeste Winthrop and Sterling Dallard. No note, no call. No, we hope to see you there." They didn't invite me to celebrate. They wanted my contribution. Sure enough, that evening, my mother called. "Naomi, darling, you got the invitation. I hope it's going to be spectacular. Live Jazz Governor's Channel 5's anchor is coming. Sterling just finalized a deal with Rivet Tech. 8 figures, can you believe it? Celeste really landed someone with vision. Not once did she ask how I was. Not once did she mention Malcolm. Then came the ask. Well, sweetheart. Celeste thought a painting from the Delphine Gallery. Perhaps something in the 150 range would really elevate the decor. Could you send it directly to the venue? No, please. No, thank you. Just entitlement. A few hours later, a text came from Celeste. Hey, Mom says that abstract piece from the gallery would look perfect on the terrace. Can you overnight it? No, hi, no, how are you? Not even a question mark. That was when something inside me tilted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even pain. It was clarity. I had paid for Grandpa's medical bills. Fixed Mom's roof after the hurricane. Fronted Celeste's car repair. When no one else answered her calls, I showed up every time. But when it came to love, real love, my love was cheap to them. Worth less than a rented venue and a photo op. I walked out onto the balcony that night. Atlanta's skyline flickered in the distance. Gorgeous, distant, silent. Malcolm joined me minutes later. No questions, just a mug of chamomile tea still warm. They invited me, I said, voice flat. Kind of, he didn't flinch. Just sipped his tea and whispered, "Of course they did. They want your taste, not your presence." I looked at him, at the man they called beneath me, and realized he had always been the only one who stood with me. That was the night I started making a plan. Not for revenge, for clarity. And once it started, it couldn't be undone. The next morning, I didn't answer their calls. Not my mother's fake cheerful checking in. Not Celeste's emoji-laden reminder about the painting. I let them ring and ring until finally. Silence. But silence doesn't always mean peace, because 3 days later, I received something I wasn't meant to hear. A voice memo accidentally forwarded from the family group chat, labeled Update from Dad. I tapped play. At first just static, then my father's voice clear as day. She chose to marry below herself. What can I say? She's always had poor judgment. He chuckled. Not kindly, not nervously, no proudly. Then Celeste chimed in. Well, at least I married right. I didn't bring shame. I sat frozen. Not because it surprised me, but because it was said with such ease, like discussing the weather. Like I was nothing. My thumb hovered over the delete icon, one tap, and it would disappear just like they always tried to make me disappear. But I didn't delete it. I forwarded it to myself, then created a calendar reminder labeled, "If you ever think of asking for their love again, play this." I didn't cry. I got up, cleaned out the hall closet, tossed old birthday cards, dusty keepsakes, dried corsages from dances. No one attended. It felt cleansing. But I kept one thing, their wedding invitation. It sat half-burned in a ceramic tray near the fireplace. I'd lit the edge months ago, but couldn't bring myself to finish the job. Until now that night, I fed the rest of it to the fire, watched the marble pattern curl, the rose gold lettering melt. Together with their families, the lie burned fastest of all. When I woke up the next morning, the ashes were still there, small gray curls of pretense. I didn't touch them. Instead, I put on Malcolm's cardigan and opened my inbox, caught up on a few contracts, reviewed an art proposal, then stopped cold. Subject line, bridal registry, gift launch, limited preview. It was a PR email, pink and bubbly from a lifestyle firm Celeste had worked with before. Curious, I clicked. Midway through the images, I saw it. A countertop gadget marketed as Winthrop Studio Original Patent Pending. My breath caught. I knew that design. 3 years ago, Malcolm stayed up late, soldering something at our kitchen table. A flour sifter, dual compartment, eco-powdered coating. I still remembered him sanding the edge with a butter knife because we couldn't afford better tools. Now it was being sold under my sister's brand. With no mention of him or me, I didn't cry. I didn't call. I opened a storage box in the hallway, pulled out an old shoebox, and unwrapped the prototype still wrapped in brown tissue paper. Then I opened a folder on my computer. Malcolm, archived designs. I had scanned every sketch. Every blueprint. He thought they weren't worth saving. But I saved them anyway because I knew I reopened my dormant LLC account. Johnstone Holdings, and drafted a letter. Subject: cease and desist, unauthorized use of intellectual property. I signed it with my alias Clara V. Lorne, legal representative. Folded it with a single sticky note inside: you love the idea, you just didn't know it was ours. The next morning, I sent it to the firm representing Celeste's company. No drama, no confrontation, just law. By Thursday, the effects were already showing. The Delphine Gallery had quietly withdrawn from the wedding. Celeste's limited collection was pulled from their catalog. Someone tried replacing the art with generic canvases. It didn't go over well. One tweet read, "From curated to cringe, how the Dallard engagement lost its sparkle overnight." I wasn't tagged, but I saw it and I smiled. Because it wasn't revenge, it was recognition without ever needing to say a word. Friday morning came. The wedding weekend. Buzz had begun. Social media countdowns, press teasers, curated hashtags, Bopritz et Sahoker, Sterling and Celeste, Modern Legacy, Papa, Dallard Winthrop Union. But one thing was missing, the centerpiece, the Delphine Gallery collection that was supposed to elevate the event to a new echelon of elite Southern heritage. As one outlet phrased it, now replaced with mass-produced floral canvases from a home decor warehouse. The press noticed, and so did Celeste. That night my phone rang. It was her. I didn't answer. Then came a text. "What did you do?" I didn't reply. Because she already knew. Instead, I made a different call. To Mr. Vern Gregory, Vern, CEO of Vern Holdings, father of Sterling, and one of the few people in that orbit who played the long game. He picked up after 2 rings. "Rowena," he greeted calm. "I was hoping you'd call." "I want to trigger my voting rights," I said. A quiet pause. "Then it's time. It's overdue. I wasn't doing this to destroy anyone. But I wasn't going to stay silent while my husband's work was stolen and my name was erased." That Sunday morning, the bridal brunch took place at a sprawling vineyard estate, just north of the city, family only. Except I showed up. I wasn't on the list. I didn't RSVP. I didn't have to. I wore ivory-sharp blazer, minimal makeup. Hair pulled back. No jewelry, but a single silver ring on my right hand. Not a wedding ring. A promise to myself. I walked in, just as Celeste was mid-toast. "And family," she was saying. Raising her glass isn't just who shares your blood, it's who lifts you up. She saw me, paused, stumbled. My mother turned, horror etched in every wrinkle. "This isn't about you," she hissed across the table. I didn't answer, didn't need to. I simply stood at the edge of the tent, hands folded in front of me. I wasn't here to ruin her party. I was here to reclaim mine. After a few minutes, I walked out to the garden path. I needed air. I needed stillness. That's where he found me. "Excuse me, are you Rowena Hartley?" A tall man, silver hair, navy suit, no tie. Calm-centered, he offered a hand. "I'm Gregory Vern," he said. "Technically Sterling's father, but we run very different empires." I nodded. "I know who you are." He smiled. "You're the reason our third-quarter expansion didn't collapse." I reviewed the filings. It was Johnstone Holdings, wasn't it? I gave a small smile. Malcolm's projections made it happen. "Do they know?" he asked, "meaning my family?" "No," I said quietly. "They never cared enough to find out." "Then maybe," he said, "today's a good day to start." He pulled out his phone. "Board vote Monday morning, Nevada portfolio. They need you present to confirm the shift. I've already added your name. You own 12% now." I blinked. 12%. Not of a brunch, of a legacy. That night I drafted my statement. It wasn't long, just facts. Clause 12b. voting authority. Equity disruption if unauthorized party gains access without co-trustee approval. On paper, I was no longer the girl at the kids' table. I was the silent partner with the final say. Monday morning 9:14 a.m., Vern Holdings, executive floor. The boardroom buzzed with quiet tension. Celeste was there. So was Sterling. My parents sat near the far end. No one expected me. Until Gregory opened the session, I'd like to introduce our voting co-chair for today's proceedings. Miss Rowena Hartley. Gasps. Celeste stood abruptly. What is she doing here? Gregory didn't flinch. Your engagement proposal requires access to the Nevada Trust. That requires her signature. Celeste's voice shook. She's not even part of this family. I slid the signed folder onto the table. Clause 12B, page 4. Reinstated last week. Hartley Foundation. My father's voice cut in. Rowena. You wouldn't do this. I looked straight at him. I already did. A beat. Then Gregory motioned on the table, revoke temporary equity access to Winthrop Dallard estate proposal. Votes cast, passed. Celeste crumbled. You ruined everything, she screamed. No, I said you did that the moment you decided I was disposable. Flashbulb's reporter's doors opened. I walked out into the hallway, calm certain. It wasn't revenge, it was restoration. The truth spoken without apology. The headlines didn't take long. Silent partner, no more. Upper bar. Power play at the Winthrop Dallard boardroom. Who is Rowena Hartley, and why did her sister just lose everything? I didn't respond, didn't give a quote. Didn't do interviews. I went home, took off the blazer, and folded it neatly into the back of my closet. Because I didn't need a headline to tell me who I was that night. As Atlanta's skyline turned amber behind the glass windows of our loft, I stood on the balcony wrapped in one of Malcolm's old flannel shirts. He joined me, barefoot, hair still damp from the shower, tea in hand. You okay? He asked gently. I didn't answer right away, just turned. Leaned my head on his shoulder and whispered. They know now, he exhaled. Not relief, not pride, just truth. They always knew, he said quietly. They just never wanted it to be you. I didn't reply. Because he was right. 3 days passed. The chat went silent. My parents didn't call Celeste. Didn't text. Not even a passive-aggressive forward. Until the 4th day. A cream envelope again. But this time no gold lettering, no foil, no celebration. Inside was a thin card. We hope you'll reconsider attending the bridal brunch makeup reception. No apology, just an expectation. They still thought I could be guilted. Still thought I needed their table, their approval, their permission to be whole. I set the card down, didn't rip it, didn't burn it. Just left it on the counter next to a cup of cold tea. That night I took out a small velvet box, a gift I had once designed meant to give to my parents on Celeste's original wedding date. Inside was a handcrafted sculpture, 2 trees' roots, entwined, 1 maple, 1 ash. Symbolic, resilient, beautiful, even cracked. I held it in my hands for a while, then closed the box and tucked it away. They were never going to see it, they never earned it. Malcolm came out, saw the box, but said nothing. He just placed his hand over mine and stood with me as the city dimmed. No words, some truths live in silence. Sunday morning, I hadn't planned to go anywhere, but when I opened my email, I saw a forwarded chain Celeste accidentally sent, subject final touches for Bridal Brunch V2. Family only, I wasn't on the list. Again, no surprise. But I didn't stay home. I put on black, not mourning, but clarity. Hair in a knot. No makeup, no pretense. By the time I arrived at the vineyard, the sun had broken over the hills. Guests milled under white tents. Jazz music swirled. The air was thick with curated elegance. I didn't announce myself. I simply walked in. My presence caused a ripple, not a gasp, but a shift. Celeste froze mid-conversation. My mother's jaw tightened. My father. He never looked up from his mimosa. I didn't approach them, didn't speak. I found a corner, stood still, and watched. And that was when I felt it. Not bitterness, not pride power. Not the kind you wield like a sword, but the kind that lives in knowing. They can't unknow who you are now. 10 minutes later, a man approached, suited young. Nervous, ma'am, he said. I'm sorry. You're not on the service list. Guests only. I smiled politely. No problem. I prefer still water anyway. I walked toward the edge of the garden through a wisteria arch and stood alone beneath it, listening to the hum of the crowd. And then, footsteps. Miss Hartley. It was Gregory Vern again. He extended his phone. A message lit up on the screen. Final vote scheduled Monday, Nevada trust clause, in motion. Then he looked at me. Not like a father-in-law, not like a guest, like a partner. They'll never thank you for what you protected, he said. But I will, I nodded, because that was enough. Not their thanks, not their redemption. Just truth seen, spoken, and finally irreversible. It rained the next morning. Not a storm, just a soft, steady drizzle that blurred the windows and hushed the world. I didn't get out of bed. Didn't need to. Malcolm had already placed a warm mug of coffee on the nightstand. No words, just presence. I stared at the ceiling for a while, then my eyes landed on a photo across the room, our wedding day. Just us. In front of a courthouse. No guests, no matching gowns, no champagne tower. But his hands were on my waist, steady, certain. And I was laughing, truly laughing. They called it a shame, but it was the only day I ever felt chosen for me. Later, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and found it a yellowed envelope I'd tucked away months ago. Inside, a photo of me at 6 years old, dirt-smudged, smiling wide, sitting in Grandpa's greenhouse. Pressed flat behind it, a lilac bloom and a note in his handwriting. Even if they never see you. I always did. I let that line sink deep. Then I cried. Not from pain, from recognition. That afternoon, I went to my gallery, quiet, empty, still mine. I hung that photo on the center wall, framed in black plaque underneath. It read, "Legacy is earned, not given." A young intern named Alina came over, watching me silently. She asked, "How did you survive all of it?" I paused. Thought of lawyer's therapy, silence, Malcolm's hand. But what I said was simple. I stopped asking why they didn't love me, and started loving myself. She nodded slowly, like she understood. And I knew in that moment I didn't win by being louder, richer, or crueler. I won by walking away whole, by never letting their silence become my story, by refusing to unsee my own worth. What did you think of this story, if you were Naomi? Would you have walked into that brunch? Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you believe love shouldn't need approval. Vote Number 1. If you think Naomi was wrong to stay silent so long. Vote number 9. Don't forget to subscribe to EN Reddit Story for more true revenge stories every single day. You just listen to one voice finally speak up. Let yours be next.